welcome back to Berlin in the interview studio. TSM will not get out of groups this year, but BWIPO, you get to start the day on a very strong foot here. I want to talk about the draft first because you guys decided to last pick Volibear, even though they showed Camille really early and Ornn was still available before the second ban rotation. So could you explain the reasoning here and why you decided to let this pick go through?
Basically, it came down to the fact that when I saw Nidalee Camille, I counted the amount of champions I had that I was comfortable playing into this combination, and we ended up with like 7. So I was like, I have like 7 champions, so I really don't mind if we go 4-5 with top lane. If we have anything better to pick, we can just pick it right there. And it turned out that we quite liked taking the Senna, of course, Reckless. Incredibly skilled on the Senna, and it was a good secure for us in the end of the game.
Yeah, and it showed during the game. But what I found interesting mostly is that in the early game, you won through map movements mostly, not especially kills. So talk me through the micro decisions in the early game that led you to get this massive lead afterwards.
I think it came more down to TSM's fear. I feel like they were playing very aggressive early game champions like Nidalee, Galio, Leona. Camille obviously is a scaling champion, but she can have a lot of lane pressure as soon as she hits 6, thanks to her Hextech ultimatum. This in conjunction with Galio's ultimate is obviously a huge threat, but I never felt pressured at any point of the game, and I think my teammates felt the same way, right? There were some key moments where Nemesis lost his flash early on. It was not early on, but it was like around 12 minutes where we were like, oh, we need to be really careful for the next 5 minutes because they can Galio Camille ult us. But that never happened, and they never really found a way to put the pressure on us. So ultimately, I think we were just really comfortable in the game, and it was just, there was no real pressure, even though they picked a draft that really needed to pressure early.
I agree, and then you just steamrolled through the game. But now focusing on the 2 matchups you have left, Gen.G, LGD. What can you tell me about this, and how do you win against LGD this time?
I think not giving away Ornn for free. I mean, it wasn't free. I feel like my set wasn't the greatest, but it did provide something in teamfights. But I think ultimately, like, our whole draft wasn't scaling all too well. And so far, this group has very much seemed like a group where the scaling team gets to have the edge, purely because the teams aren't, like, exceptional. I'm not saying that we have bad teams in our group by any means, bar maybe TSM. But ultimately, LGD and Gen.G are... they're pretty slow teams, and they like playing for the Ocean Soul, or sorry, not the Ocean, the Dragon Soul, which means that having some scaling and some backup just in case, you know that you're going to have a dragon fight at some point, so having some scaling champions in your draft is always going to make sense, and I think that that's the biggest take from our group so far.
Now talking about the dragon fights for Fnatic, we know that it's been an issue last week. Is this something you worked on so far? Because it looked really clean, this game.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
The drafting?
No, the dragon fights, actually. From last
the
week
dragon
to this
fights?
week, yeah.
I think that's just because TSM picked a composition that, again, required a lot of execution. Like, Galio Camille need to be really on point with their target selection, and, well, that's not what happened. So, dragon fights are obviously really easy to play when their Camille was a bit off on the side, and I was able to flash on her the first time. Like, the third dragon fight we took, I flashed on Camille, and we were able to take her out immediately with a nice shockwave. So, as soon as Camille dies, their whole team fight composition falls apart, and ultimately, Camille was never able to find a flank or any type of pressure to get a good ultimate. So, thanks to our 4-5, locking in Volibear and Braum, we had a lot of point-and-click CC that was able to make the game much harder, and most of our champions were far more durable in a long, extended fight, and as soon as we locked in the Ocean Soul, we knew the game was over.